Well, good morning and welcome to Donington Park.
We've got the 90s F1 display, we've got a row of hypercars, we've got a big hypercar parade, we've got lots of track action going on. We've got such a mad collection here today.
I'm going to be chatting to loads of people up here on the stage throughout the day.
I just love this. We're looking at it now. If you've not seen it and this is your first chance, you'll go, wow, that's incredible. I am joined, I'm delighted to say, by Le Mans royalty, I'm going to say. He's going to hate that one, but I'm going to say it. Sam Hancock. Hello, Sam.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to hate that.
Yeah, I'm allowed to say it. You're not, I am. You just have to sort of grin and go, oh, smile away, boys.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is you were just explaining to me you've done Le Mans 9 times, did you say?
8 times.
8 times, sorry.
Yeah.
See, I'm even adding some on as well.
Feels like a lifetime ago now, but actually being here on a day like this is fantastic because it brings back so many of those memories. Having been a professional driver in these kind of cars, I use that phrase in period, it doesn't feel old enough to be talking about them in period, but the fantastic thing is they're now part of the historic racing community, so they fall under this sort of phrase endurance legends. So it's LMP1, LMP2 prototypes, GT cars, that's GT1 and GT2, and going right back to as early for some of the endurance legends races that are out there, back to the sort of early 90s, right up to as recently as about 2016, which is why we're seeing incredibly young, incredibly exotic machinery back out on tracks in the hands of capable, enthusiastic amateur racers, which is just brilliant for someone like me who never thought I'd get close to these cars again, and my sort of main professional career ended a long time ago. Now in the historic racing environment, in my role as a coach and as sort of a pro driver, I find myself back behind the wheel of some of these things, and that I could never have imagined, and it's just brilliant. There's this phrase they say that, you know, nothing ages faster than last year's racing cars, and it's true. They especially sort of when you're talking sports cars, they typically have roughly a 3-year lifespan, and then they're just redundant, and they sit in the basements of workshops and owners under dust sheets, and it's so nice to see a hugely populated and supported event like this, where the fans, especially if you're a fan of a supercar, you know, supercars is a very sort of 90s thing, isn't it? 80s, 90s, noughties. If you're a fan of those kind of road cars, you're probably going to be a fan of, you know, Formula One and Le Mans sports cars from similar periods, and what a way to bring them together.
The racing fan in me's meant that I've had to come down and check all of this out. Straight away we look here at the Bentley. I mean, what a monster of a car. Look at that Brabham. It is just an absolutely mind-blowing car.
The car's better than I am, and I need to turn that the other way round. It's going to take a while.
David Brabham brings the Brabham back in again. I mean, it really is. We just cannot do it justice.
I'm Jim from Smart Track, Paul's partner.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been in some machines in my time and a lot of Paul's cars, but that thing's the best to date. It really is.
Even Paul says that as well, I think.
There you go, well, we're both not lying.
I mean, is it just completely chalk and cheese to a supercar then?
Yeah, I mean, you could just see by when you're going out there with all these other supercars. Obviously, these are road cars. This is ultimately a race car, track car. So this one in particular is the race version. So we're a lot faster. So I have to be a little bit careful. It's got 700 horsepower, 1,200 kilos of downforce, and it's under a ton. So it's pretty fast, as well as the carbon brakes.
I've also got the honour of speaking to a 4-time IndyCar champion. He's won the Indianapolis 500 3 times. It's Dario Franchitti. Thank you so much for joining us today. And what are you driving?
I'm driving this DBR9, which is quite an exciting way to live your day.
Tell us a bit about it. You know, how's it performing at Donington?
Well, this is more a shakedown. We're going to race. I'm going to race at Le Mans next week in the, as I call it, the old man's race. There's 2 45-minute races, but one on Friday, one on Saturday before the 24 hours. So the car's just been rebuilt.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about this? I guess that you're going to be driving this later, maybe.
Yeah, I might go for a spin. My little brother Marino's driving it right now. This car won the Tour de France Auto back in the 60s, and it won the Carrara Trophy with Joe McCarthy and Tom Christensen driving it. So it's got a hell of a pedigree, this thing.
I mean, just look at that acceleration, it was just ridiculous. It's come out of that Melbourne hairpin and just disappeared.
It's very much a powered fan, so it's not passive, it's an active fan system that we use. Yeah, and it's an incredibly efficient way of delivering downforce on a car. You pay a huge penalty for any sort of redundant space, redundant drag that you put onto an electric car. So it's sort of shrink wrapped around the driver. The battery is wrapped underneath the driver's legs and around the side of the driver, and then the driver's sat sort of properly on the floor, so the driver's incredibly low down. It's designed around 6'7" as a maximum size, and
I mean, it is just an absolute bullet.
Yeah, so it's capable of more than 200 miles an hour, and as a result of having no gears and having this wonderfully responsive throttle pedal, you're in this position where you can really focus on your braking zones, getting the right balance into the car as you enter the corner, trying to set the car up correctly and reaching the apex. So it's a simpler, more pure experience than you get in other cars.
Oh, that we're seeing out on the circuit now, the single-seater. Tell us about it. What is it?
Yeah, so we've Liam Lawson. He's an F2 driver that we support in his campaign. Out on track today, driving our Rodin FZ. We've had it in development, I suppose, for 3 or 4 years now. In terms of performance, it's hugely impressive. We've designed it to get as close to an F1 car, maybe not hybrid era if you like, but as close to an F1 car as possible. It is quicker than an F2 or GP2 car. It's already been tested. Our track in New Zealand, where the company is based, it's taking us 44 seconds in this car, and that's a second and a half quicker than a GP2 car.
So this is something that people can buy and take out on the circuit?
Yeah. Buy it, take it out. We partnered with High Tech GP.
Yep.
So they'll do all our after sales, running of the car, dropping off, picking up the car for the customer, everything. That's all going to be across the UK and Europe to begin with, and then we'll move further afield at that stage.
I just cannot believe this.
Yeah, so this is our Hypercar track session, and
hyper exciting as well.
Very exciting.
It's just ridiculous.
The things that we've got on track. These are cars worth generally in excess of £1 million. As we.
And I heard you saying about you had to go and get the keys to your car when you were down there.
Yes, I did. I had to, unfortunately, have to drive a Koenigsegg CCXR edition.
I feel for you, mate. Thanks for taking one for the team.
No, it's someone needed to drive it, and I was just right place, right time, and maybe that's just how it needs to be.
Here it is, the car at the back of this gaggle now. You see the air brake. Now watch this rear fin. Look at that.
It turns round.
It is crazy. Look, it looks like it's like bobbling off, and we'll get it again at the top of it. Look at this. As the steering wheel turns, it does that, and it means you're getting the optimum. There's the air brake part now. It just goes.
You turn in.
I mean, it's wacky races, isn't it? I mean, it's just incredible. Are you able to make any decision on what car stands out the most for you on here, or is that still the impossible one?
I'm struggling. I mean, with what's on track at the minute, I mean, we've got a Porsche 996 GT1, but it's the road-going version.
Just that sentence alone is crazy, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, like they literally just sort of stuck some number plates on it and put some more comfier seats in it, and that's about it.
We've got some noisy stuff about to head out onto the track now here at Donington Park. This is a Minardi here, this one, from 1994, driven by Pierluigi Martini, this Tyrrell number 4. That is from 1993. Ukyo Katayama and Andrea De Cesaris were the two drivers here. This is Damon Hill's car from 1992. He made his Formula 1 debut in this car at the 1992 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. We've got a Leighton House here that's going to be going out a little bit later. This is going to be the 1991 Scuderia Italia Dallara that is about to leave the pit lane. This is the Benetton. This is the exact car that Nelson Piquet won 2 races in at the end of the 1990 season. That's just a selection of some of the cars we've got going on here. So, Chris, I'll head up and join you, I think, and watch some of these cars on track.
Jonathan, fantastic to have Ignition GP here at Donington. How did it all come about, I guess, is the first question.
Yeah, I mean, delighted with how many cars we've got here, and they're all period correct, and they're running well so far, so that's good.
Yeah. What made you decide to do this?
It happened with Adam Thorpe, who owns Supercar Driver, said to me, do you fancy bringing your Formula 1 car along? And I said, I'd love to, but let's go a stage further. These cars need to be back out on track properly, with cars that all run properly, no other classes of car, all Formula 1 of this generation, they need to be out. And I said, let's do this. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, we just set about trying to build a grid, and I think for the first one we're delighted at how many have turned up here, and I think we have a few more events next year. I hope to have even more cars.
Yeah, it's really, really fantastic, isn't it? And we've got a load more cars in the static display in the paddock.
We're bringing back these cars for everyone to see,
yeah,
feel and hear. So,
yeah, exactly. A real buzz to be down there in the pit lane when these cars are firing up, and you can just remember, well, I'm sure some of you do remember, I remember the sound of 24 of these, 26 of these going past each other. We've got a Tyrrell versus Minardi battle coming through the hairpin. This is great stuff. The 94 Minardi just ahead of the 92 Tyrrell. 93 Tyrrell,
yes,
my apologies.
Yes. So actually that Minardi's got a great race history. That very chassis finished 5th in 2 Grand Prix with Pierluigi Martini. I think it was the French Grand Prix and Spanish Grand Prix.
Correct.
Yeah, no, it's lovely to see. They seem to have a bit of a scrap there, which is quite nice to see. It's one of the keep it under control.
Exactly. That Minardi, the last Minardi to be designed by Aldo Costa, who then left the team and went on to be part of the Ferrari team that won all those world championships, and then moved to Mercedes and became Mercedes chief designer. So some really good heritage in the back there. This is the 93 Tyrrell that you alluded to before. Ukyo Katayama and Andrea De Cesaris, the true drivers.
A howling V10 sounds absolutely fantastic, and it's great to see. Yeah, these two cars are really going at it, so look at them.
Yeah, and it does look like they belong here, doesn't it? Because of that Grand Prix here in 1993. It all looks so familiar, doesn't it? This is the B190, as I mentioned a moment ago, the very car that, or the very chassis that Nelson Piquet won the last 2 Grand Prix of the season in, finishing a 1-2 in Japan ahead of Roberto Moreno after Alessandro Nannini was injured in a helicopter crash near his home in Siena towards the end of that year. But that, of course, 1990 Japanese Grand Prix was when Senna and Prost came together at turn 1, so a win by default more than anything for Piquet, but I'm sure they took it very happily.
Yes,
and again, funky liveries in those days, Benettons, weren't they?
They really were. I loved it. I think it's absolutely great, and harks back to sort of the early 90s style of the time, which was unloved for a while, and I think it seems to be going back into fashion. So good to see that out again.
Welcome to the grid at Donington, and what a sight that we've got for you here today. Starting with the 992 Michelin Porsche, but then just look behind that. I mean, just the front row alone, that's such a mix of unicorns. And then you've got the row after, and the row after that we've got a Reventon. I mean, how many of those do you ever see? A Porsche GT1, the 996. These are just very, very rarely seen, with Carl Hartley's Huayra next to it, and then a Bugatti Divo of all things. This is madness. It's just the level of cars that we've got on this grid right now is absolutely insane. I'm a kid in a sweet shop here. I mean, where do you look? We've got another couple of Huayras, a Zonda, just a standard Chiron, you know. When could you ever visit somewhere that you can say just a standard Chiron? Now this is John. You may have seen the video about him that we did a while back.
Hello, yes, thank you, John.
Are you in your F40?
You may be quite famous, in fact.
You've been very famous. Everybody loves you now.
A few views, thank you for that.
Be like John.
But yes, I'm another year older and still driving an F40. What a fabulous event.
So how old are you now then?
80 plus.
80 plus. Can you put a value on even just the first 2 rows? There's nothing that's worth What, less than 2 million?
Well, I was missing Pebble Beach, not going to Pebble Beach this week because of all the travel restrictions, but this makes up for it.
Oh,
This event has grown from... Well, it's grown to just an unbelievable scale now.
Flanked by a couple of SF90s.
The Pure Sport's an amazing car. Every time I get to drive it, which is pretty regularly, it puts a grin on your face without even trying.
I'm very jealous. I'd love to be taking that one round, but apparently I'm not allowed the keys.
Well, it's in my pocket. How much money have you got?
I've got keys to an F40 if you want to swap.
No, you're all right.
Thank you. Cheers.
Not a very good thing for a commentator to be speechless, but I have to tell you that's kind of pretty much where I'm at the moment. It's just incredible to see this array. I'm now trying to do things like taking photos with the lip sync mic up to my mouth whilst trying to do a camera phone as well, because you just suddenly spot something else on this bumper grid. I mean, it is just ram-packed. 24 rows of hypercars. I mean, it is just exquisite. And this is my prime example of where I just suddenly go like, oh wow, look at that, that's my favourite. Oh wow, look at that, that's my favourite. And it's just not worth trying to do it. The lead cars are already making their way back down the exhibition straight. They've been very well behaved as well, because you quite often get that they'll kind of just drop back a little bit so that they can then boot it saying, well, I was just trying to catch up. I don't think that washes quite so well here, and I don't think that they'd be able to drop back far enough for these hypercars, because of course they'll still be dramatically accelerating by the time they catch up with the cars behind them. I do love that we have the McLaren Senna GTR car there as well. Full race regalia on that one. Just sort of adds even more to that compared to even the road-going version. I wonder how many of you have tried to sort of pick out your favourite car from this array. Focusing in there, and you'll see that it's okay, that it's a parade, so they're there with their camera phones catching all of this moment as they're going around the world famous Donington Park circuit. Look at the classic Ferrari that we just saw then, the drivers with their helmets on. What a great mix of cars we have there. A couple of, well, more than a couple. I didn't even know there was this many Bugattis made. I'm being facetious obviously, but there's so many Bugattis out there, it's incredible. I mean, we've got what, it's got to have been approaching 50 cars that we've had out there. Hypercars, 50 hypercars, just mind-blowing.
Here it is, the new Corvette Stingray right-hand drive. First time since 1953 this car has been constructed and put together by those fantastic engineers at Corvette. And we've finally got this right-hand drive version here, which is marvellous. I am super excited as a guy who's driven for Corvette for 20 years to finally see a right-hand drive version here in the UK. Oh, it's magic.
Everything on a Pagani is handmade, handcrafted, and a word we use quite often is that we take a very artisan approach. So very skilled specialists that put these cars together. Of course, the carbon is all done in-house, but also all of the metalwork, for example, the small buttons, all the fixtures and fittings, they're all crafted out of aluminium aerospace, which starts off as a large piece of aluminium, it's machined down, and everything is hand finished.
The 765 is an LT, and the LT is about the thoroughbred, long-tail sort of motorsport heritage element, really. So we've stripped a lot of weight. So fundamentally, it was a 720S to begin with, and we all know what a fantastic car that is. It's an absolute weapon. And when this was being talked about, we genuinely thought, how are you going to improve on a 720, let alone a 720 Spider? But they've managed it. We've got 755 brake horsepower, 765 PS, and a lot of weight saving has gone into this car. 75 kilos lighter than a 720.
So this is the Praga R1, 630 kilos, 385 horsepower, but looks amazing. And that's because of Frank and his team's livery design on it. And when Frank and I go back mini McLaren days, and So I just called Frank, and it was at Supercar Driver last year. Frank saw the car, and we just came up with the plan of doing the livery, and it really stands out. It's a sensational car, and it's great that Miles from Supercar Driver's driving it with James. They're having a good season, but the car looks sensational thanks to Frank.
At Thornton 100 we take brand spanking new Triumphs pretty much straight off the production line, and then we pull them apart all the way back down to the engine and the frame, and we engineer pretty much everything that isn't the engine and the frame. So we make our own forks, we make our own triple clamps, the wheels, everything is billet. We do a lot of 3D printing and prototyping, 3D scanning and all that kind of stuff like that, good stuff like that really, that keeps it interesting for us.
We are one of the main sponsors of SCD this year, and we thought let's get a car and sponsor a car. So this is our sponsored GT3 Porsche. Driven in, I think it was 1995 by Dino Zamparelli in the Carrera Cup. So we're very proud to be sponsoring the car this year.
This is the McMurtry Spearling. We really hope that this offers some exciting new prospects for the future of motorsport, exactly as you've just said. It's clearly a single-seater electric racing car. It's a phenomenal thing that we've been working on for quite a few years now. So the company's been in existence for 5 years, and we've been working solidly on this car for about 3 of those. It's the second generation car that we built. Fundamentally, it's pure electric. It's got a 60 kilowatt hour battery. It's 1,000 horsepower per tonne.
Well, that's it. We have come to the end of the day.
I think it's just time for me to sign off with you, Amanda, and hopefully we'll see you again next year.
Sounds good.
And we'll see all you again next year.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.